All right. Welcome back, everyone, to season 2 of CXplorers Podcast with myself, Daniel, and my co host, Jasper Nasser. How's it going, Jasper?
Doing pretty good, pretty good. Season two. Feels like
It
yesterday we
does.
just recorded pilot
A
episode.
lot of stuff has happened in this world when it comes to not just like AI, but just overall tech. Not sure if you've heard kind of the latest buzz from 17 hours ago with Nvidia's Blackwell with their new
Oh
AI
yeah,
based chip.
yeah.
Let's take a quick look at that, and I'll just pull it up real quick.
GPUs don't look the way they used to. This is the most advanced GPU in the world in production today. This is Hopper. This is Hopper. Hopper changed the world. This is Blackwell. It's okay, Hopper. 208 billion transistors, and so you could see, I can see, there's a small line between two dies. This is the first time two dies have abutted like this together in such a way that the two dies think it's one chip. There's 10 terabytes of data between it, 10 terabytes per second, so that these two sides of the Blackwell chip have no clue which side they're on. There's no memory locality issues, no cache issues. It's just one giant chip.
Pretty cool stuff, eh?
I know. I know we were chatting about this when it got launched. So it's basically Skynet coming alive right now. Like all the T1000s, everything that we've learned about artificial intelligence with a lot of the pop culture references. We're going there.
I think it was interesting, though, if you checked out the Netflix documentary, What's Next, I think the first episode, one of the points they talk about is that we tend to influence our own decisions. So, for example, right, we're always afraid that aliens will take over the world because in reality, that's probably what we would do if we achieved interstellar travel. Right, we'd probably look at mining resources, invading someone else. I mean, history shows that we've already done it within our own planet, right? And I think with
Yeah.
what they were talking about in that documentary with AI is, again, we know about Skynet, we know about the dangers and the pitfalls. So we're really on the precipice where it's really up to us to define those governance models. I know the EU has some AI governance that they've rolled out not too long ago. And again, Nvidia, like we watched in that video, they're doing a lot of things when it comes to fraud detection and prevention, things of that nature as well, to kind of really ensure that there's the right safeguards as we really look at possible use cases more and more within AI-driven solutions.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Daniel. Right. Also, with that episode one for what's next, there was an analogy of we're just a bunch of kids playing around with time bomb, right? And with what you mentioned regarding around fraud detection, fraud prevention, and with the prevalence of a lot of deep fakes. I'm not sure if you've seen ones floating around on social media, voice masking. There's really a number of fraud exponential growth right now as we go through AI, and that's actually the first episode that we're going to be piloting right now for season two. And I hope everyone is excited about this because between you and me, I'm quite concerned on the growth on how folks are actually using artificial intelligence, especially LLMs, in terms of scamming people. Right. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think with technologies like Apple Intelligence, Google Bard, well now Google Gemini, and the integration they have with the devices, it makes those kind of threats a lot more prevalent in the palm of your hand. And I know in season 1 we talked a lot about AI-driven technologies within the customer experience space. How do companies and corporations really build a roadmap and get the right training and tool sets to really equip themselves with how to journey map what an AI journey could potentially look like. But I think, to your point today is really around the topics of, better detection, what's needed in terms of really making sure that the AI is objective in the data set that it has, because again, humans innately come with bias. So as a result, any technology and data set that we provide is going to come with that same bias as well. And I think we talked about that at the end of our last episode, or our last season, I should say.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to, kind of kick us off with just the definition, right? When we talk about what is fraud detection and how is AI going to play a role with fraud detection and fraud prevention in general, right? Because as we all know, with artificial intelligence right now, it uses various ML techniques, machine learning techniques, to filter through millions of data set. Now, in the example from the financial industry, there's this term KYC, like know your customer. So essentially, what happens is if you have a credit card, and say, for example, like you, Daniel, right, you're located at Canada. So, from an historical standpoint, all of your transaction should just stay within Canada, not unless you book a flight going through a Southeast Asian country. In the event that there was an anomaly or a transaction that actually got recorded from an IP from a different geographic location, then that's an anomaly that a lot of the people won't be able to look into, because there's millions of people, and there's millions of transaction that one credit card holder do on a daily basis. And that's something where AI can play a big role in terms of detecting that, oh, this seems like it's a strange pattern. Why is this guy all of a sudden in Thailand? Like, yesterday he was in Toronto, Canada. So something like that. So just want to be able to put an emphasis, at least on the baseline, on how machine learning techniques are being utilized with fraud detection.
Yeah, and having been in that industry myself, I know as part of that KYC, it's really looking at anomalies within customer behavior. Like you mentioned, if they're traveling away, and it's like, how come there's a big withdrawal coming out here? But where AI can
Yeah.
really help augment the human intelligence area of that, from, let's say, a bank teller doing the research, is they have to do it very quickly because the customer's waiting there. And a lot of times when there's a big deposit
Yeah.
or big withdrawal, that's what the bankers are doing. They're looking through your history. And if someone travels every 2 years to Thailand, that's something AI can pick up in a millisecond versus someone going back, 720 days in their banking history to see if, hey, this isn't a regular transaction or not, which has an output of better customer experience, a faster resolution time, because now the customer's not waiting there because the AI is like, hey, I've done the checks for you. These are maybe the red flags you might want to look into or ask the customer about before we approve this.
Absolutely, absolutely, right. And on the other hand, while that exact concept is good enough as it is, but there's also going to be some false positive detection, right? Like what you just mentioned, if that regular customer travels to Thailand every 2 years, and the AI would actually flag it. Oh, this is an anomaly, so that's going to be a false positive on the AI result side. So it's still important that there's going to be human intervention in the loop, so that a human would know that, no, this is the travel pattern of this specific person. You shouldn't be tagging this as something as sort of an anomaly. So there is actually the part where biases still plays in a role, right? And what Nvidia is doing right now with a lot of the work that they do is they're generating what they call is removing bias for the data set that they have. So they have the ability to generate synthetic data to train AI models that has no biases at all, which is actually very good. And I know we've discussed it way back season one, where it's a data race right now. Everyone is struggling to find data, to grab a hold of data where they can train their AI on. And the problem is, not everyone is willing to give out their data. I know we had some issues with ChatGPT tapping into a lot of articles online, and there's a lot of pushback coming from folks who created those articles, and they're using essentially their own content to train AI models. So just want to also put emphasis in terms of removing biases with the data that we use, made before fraud detection or training LLMs in general.
For sure. And I think the benefit, once you kind of get that right at the onset, in terms of AI driven fraud detection and prevention, is it's a lot faster. Right? AI can conduct the analysis much faster and much more thoroughly. Like we just mentioned with the banking example, right? So let's say a bank teller has a customer wanting to pull out $4,998 from their account. This is generally under a sign limit. It's an unusual transaction for the customer, maybe.
Yeah.
And again, past history shows that this was deposited via cash the day before. So by having AI, really quickly understand these red flags and or anomalous transactions, this really helps protect other customers in terms of any potential identity theft and things of that nature, or any of those kinds of related frauds. And I think, yeah, I think
Absolutely.
when you
Yeah.
mentioned, right, Nvidia, their fraud review report, right, they had this RAG tool on the back end to really help tap in information, even from like policy documents. So this can help expedite decision making in a very non-biased manner. Obviously, applying the model that you said it before in terms of removing anything that might be biased in terms of that initial data set.
Yeah, and that's actually very good. I just want to touch back with the RAG model, right? It means retrieval augmented generation. And I know a couple of weeks back when that specific technique trended, I sent you a one pager revolving around that, and it's actually quite good. So for everyone who's listening, so retrieval augmented generation is essentially the solution that these AI trainers are making to remove biases and remove hallucination with the result of AI. So what it does is it pulls out relevant and new information from any data source that you wanted to tap into, because we all know with ChatGPT, say for example, their large language model is only trained up until 2022, if my memory serves me right, and we're going to be completely dependent on those providers of those LLMs for them to update the current data set that it's learned from. So with this new technique, RAG model, you're going to be able to tap into your most recent document that talks about, how you want the AI to function from a fraud detection, fraud prevention standpoint.
For sure. And I think that's aligned with kind of what we're seeing with the AI driven technologies. If we look at computing as a whole, since the early 90s to now, it's always been RAM or ROM based, right? So always retrieval based. And I think
Yeah.
with AI now, it's generative, right? So this is more so even the types of queries people are going to be asking, whether it's customer experience or customer support issues, or even just, in terms of how we do a Google search, right? When you talk to an AI, it's very different. It's much more conversational and it's less retrieval based because it's generative and it's creating new ideas. And to your point, by tying in the RAG to those policy documents and certain things, allows it to make the right decisions within that framework while still keeping a conversation with someone.
Absolutely, and just want to push forward with some of the drawbacks when it comes to detection, because as we love the whole benefit of fraud detection using artificial intelligence, there's definitely a few things that folks need to take note of, which I've already touched on, right? False positive result, meaning, while we aim for AI to minimize the false positive result, there's definitely going to be some occasional genuine users that would get flagged if the AI is not aware of the historical pattern that the specific customer goes through. So it's still important where a human in the loop is going to be relevant, because it would then steer the AI towards the right direction. And I really want to put emphasis on that, because with the touching back on the what's next docu series from Netflix, the godmother of AI said something about AI will. And she immediately said that no, AI will. Humans who use AI will. It's a very simple, semantic
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, but it's very powerful from a philosophical point of view, right? And I've been very vocal about that, Daniel, right? AI will not aim to replace anything as of the moment, but those folks who uses AI on their daily basis would play a powerful role as we move forward with this AI hype train and all.
Oh, for sure. I think even with like Sybil AI, right, that was used for early cancer detection.
Yeah,
And again, the AI can't explain what it's looking at. It just does it and finds a way to do it. And even when they looked into what the AI was looking at, it didn't identify anything within that area of cells. But the person or the doctors and clinicians and physicians that were using the AI noticed that the AI spent more time analyzing a specific area. And by
yeah,
treating that area, they were able to prevent the cancer by about 2 years from traditional norms, right? And I think that's exactly to your point, is the false positives, especially in really regulated and very important type of industries like healthcare, is you can't have those false positives, especially from AI, and there needs to be some sort of human intelligence or intervention needed in those models. I think the second big drawback, Casper, is also just a lack of human understanding. Right? AI sometimes will struggle to combat social fraud threats such as phishing or social engineering, catfishing, right? And these rely on a lot of human interactions versus automation. So the education component that I always talk about in terms of educating teams about these risks remains important, as one employee falling victim could compromise an entire organization. Right? And I know even within the organization that we work at, again, there's a lot of education that comes around in terms of making sure that generative, AI or ChatGPT models aren't being used in the workplace. And I know a lot of other organizations have followed suit as well. And simultaneously, it's also about kind of finding that balance of where can I use this as a thought starter, but not using this as fact, and really making sure that we're doing the due diligence.
Exactly.
Right? So.
Exactly, right. And to your point, with a lot of the social frauds and phishing, I also saw one article that's actually very scary, but also at the same time very good, wherein a lot of the folks right now are using models like ChatGPT to generate code bases, wherein they're going to create a software, Daniel, that looks like a payment portal for one of your banks, and all of which was actually generated by a code that LLMs gave. So imagine folks who doesn't know anything about SQL or any HTML type of coding system. They can generate that right now with the use of prompts. So that's just how scary it is, right? With the lack of human understanding. So we all just need to be really vigilant when we're going through a lot of the things that we see online. So you have to trust your instinct. If it's something that's good to be true, then that's probably something that's going to be a fraud, right? So it's hard to navigate right now as we move forward with this AI space, where everything you would have to ask yourself, oh, is this true? Is this AI generated? So really just putting emphasis with making sure that what you're looking at right now, what you're going in through, is authenticated, and it's something that you have been going through in the past, if it's, say, for example, your banking portal or whatnot.
For sure. So I think in just wrapping up, and just to kind of summarize for our audience, right, when we look at AI fraud detection or any type of software that can help us with that, I'd say one of the main priorities is that businesses need to ensure there's a high accuracy to minimize false positives, maintain a trustworthy fraud detection while maintaining legitimate transactions, and also to ensure that the software can adapt to any type of evolving fraud methods and handle large data volumes for scalability.
Absolutely. And if I may add into that, right, transparency as well with a lot of the algorithms that these providers are going to be giving to you. So they should be able to provide customizable rules that are going to be important when it comes to aligning to your specific business needs. Because I know we talked about a lot the financial industry, but we know that there's millions and millions more use cases that can go there. So it's really important that you have that customization when it comes to training that AI model to be able to attain your specific requirements if you are to opt one for your organization.
For sure. Well, this wraps up episode 1 of our new season. Thanks, Jasper. Again, always a pleasure chatting with you on these podcasts. Really looking forward to having more guests this season as well, and really expanding beyond some of the topics around just like AI in the customer service world. I think a lot more of these subset technologies that we can be really specific about are really coming to market. And I think a lot of the tech organizations, a lot of the BPOs, they're really understanding the potential use case and where to apply it in a safe manner. So to your point, right, I think we're years away from it, but we're also in the most critical years of building it the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to just one quick note to all of our listeners, feel free to drop us a comment about your thoughts as well with regards to AI fraud that we're currently going through nowadays. Daniel and I would love to hear your thoughts about it.
For sure. And if there's any topics of discussion that you guys think are really relevant, or that maybe you're going through this at work or your company's going through this, by all means, drop us a comment as well. We'd love to be able to talk about that. All right. Thanks, everyone. That's a wrap.
Thanks, everyone.